This is about Sri Lanka's Minister of Power highlighting that there are overdue bills to the Ceylon Electricity Board amounting to rupees 44 Sri Lankan rupees 44 billion or 44,000 million Sri Lankan rupees for the past 2 months. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, people have not paid their bills and tariff increases have not come on time. As a result, the due payments are there for the Ceylon Electricity Board. I think first of all, Ceylon Electricity Board must change its name to Sri Lanka Electricity Board, and also with regard to this current due payments of 44 billion rupees or 44,000 million. It's not possible to take such a large amount from the people now recover, because those recoveries becomes out of question now, because it takes time to economically recover for the country. So the best way is to convert the due payments from the people, the consumers of electricity, as similar to electricity bonds, electricity rather bills, electricity treasury bills, because converting the due payments, say one household has to pay, say for 1 year, last month, the previous month, say 10,000 rupees. So if they are not paying it, the Ceylon Electricity Board can convert the payments due. That means payment due is normally it's an asset, because it's a current asset. It is less than 1 year. Payments due within 1 year are considered as current assets, or like in accounting. Okay, so in that case, convert since it's not going to be coming to the Ceylon Electricity Board in near future. I'm sure it won't come within another 1 year. This 44 billion as a whole, so it can't be held as current assets, because it's not going to feasible to recover according to accounting principles. If the dues are non-recoverable, they must be written off. Okay, or here, since it's a state monopoly, Ceylon Electricity Board, they can of course recover them, but it will take more than 1 year. So these due payments from each and household must be considered as like a similar to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka selling treasury bills to the commercial banks, right, and get the money from the commercial banks and issue them a treasury bill certificate, or Sri Lanka Central Bank of Sri Lanka issuing Sri Lanka development bonds or Sri Lanka investment bonds overseas and receiving the dollars, US dollars, and then issuing them the certificate. Similar to that, here we can have the like a reverse here, because we can see like now once treasury bills are sold to the commercial banks by the central bank, the central bank cash liquidity goes up and the commercial bank liquidity goes down, because all the cash get absorbed to the government department of national debt, so at the central bank. So they then what the central bank does is, sometimes the commercial banks develop difficulties in liquidity, which means all the money had been invested into treasury bills. So then central bank repurchase those treasury bills, repos, that those are called repos. So like repurchase agreements the commercial banks can enter. That is, now say central bank sold about 500 million treasury bills to a commercial bank in Sri Lanka, say Ceylon Bank, and took 500 million out of the Ceylon Bank to the commercial central bank. Then central bank can partly have a repurchase agreement with the Ceylon Bank if it is facing difficulty in cash management, and infuse about 100 million back into the Ceylon Bank to meet its problems. So similarly, that's called a repurchase agreement of a treasury bill. So Ceylon Electricity Board can convert the due payments to repurchase electricity bills, treasury bills, like that. Repurchase electricity consumer bills. Like that, and then like convert it into a non-current asset, investment asset, as a long-term investment maturity period based non-current asset. That means more than 1 year only the maturity will happen. So then it strengthened the assets, non-current assets, theoretically. On the other hand, what happen is the balance sheet, the financial statements. Now, when it comes to financial position statements of the or the balance sheet of the the Ceylon Electricity Board will be more stronger because they have some long-term assets due, right? And they can focus on their core business after that, while proceeding with the receiving payments for those long-term bills, which originally were payments due from the consumers. So it's similar to a repurchase agreement. Like here the central bank gives money to the commercial bank. Here, we can say Ceylon Electricity Board has given some money to the consumers. So but they are unable to pay back. So then Ceylon Electricity Board converted them into long-term bills or bonds, and then as and when the people can pay, can recover partly through this execution of these repurchase agreements. I think that way the accounting part of it can be sorted out theoretically, and also it gives some clean financial statements to the Ceylon Electricity Board to proceed on based on the principles of accounting and treasury management, and to proceed in a certain direction rather than the present way of breaking down day and day. We are unable to receive the payments from the its own consumers, and since electricity is a monopoly, let it be a monopoly. But I think the electricity supply generation industry in Sri Lanka, which is now under renewable sources like water, hydroelectricity, and then wind power, and also solar power, etc. Must and also non-renewable like crude oil, diesel generation. So I think in time to come soon, Sri Lanka must invest in nuclear energy. Because that is the only way to cut down the dependence on the crude oil. Crude oil price fluctuations and the inability to maintain our inflation price levels is a major issue. So we cannot rely on the crude oil for electricity generation, and neither we can rely on hydropower or wind power or solar power, because it all depends on nature and which we cannot depend. It's not reliable. So the best thing is to take away the crude oil dependency into nuclear power, and then take forward the economy without the economy's inflation getting affected by the price fluctuations due to any sensitive reason in Middle East, because anyone can create trouble in Middle East, and ultimately we end up paying more here for oil here, and it damages our standard of living after all. So that is why dependence on crude oil for electricity generation must be cut off, and it must be shifted to geothermal energy, like the Earth's core heat being absorbed to the surface and boil water and steam, and then create the turbine movements, and then nuclear power generation. Those areas where we can rely on as reliable without any problems that we see in renewable energy sources like water and solar power and wind power, because it always the supply falls with the nature. So this is what the Ceylon Electricity Board must do, and also maybe sometimes the Ceylon Electricity Board can convert its finance and treasury division into a commercial bank, and through it do all other transactions like payments, salaries to its engineers and other staff, and government borrowings, without depending through the Ceylon Electricity CEB commercial bank, do the other need investments in the Ceylon Electricity Board. So it must have a CEB group with a CEB commercial bank and the Ceylon Electricity Board itself to fund the expansion of electricity and the generation, and the regional distribution and the retail distribution, the metering, and helping the people who have budget problems to give time to pay, because if you have a bank within the Ceylon Electricity Board, then what happens is the bank can always support the working capital needs of the Ceylon Electricity Board, and also because of the problems of the consumers delaying the payments, the bank can always borrow from the interbank call money market and from the other commercial banks and support this industry to continue in a fair way without cutting the supply of electricity, which is a basic need, and then ensure that each and every family and the business and the government enterprises and the non-business entities can continue and somehow manage their working capital and supported by the Ceylon Electricity CB commercial bank and continue their work.